Do you have an Amazon Alexa enabled device? You can now listen to my podcast on that device. Just go to Alexa Skills, search for K-12 Education Untangled, click Enable to enable that skill, and voila! You're now able to listen to my podcast via your Alexa enabled device. Welcome to another episode of K-12 Education Untangled. My name is Dr. Kim Fields, former corporate manager turned educational researcher and advocate, and I'm the host of this podcast. I got into this space after dealing with some frustrating interactions with school educators and administrators, as well as experiencing the micro-discriminations that I faced as an African-American mom raising my two kids who were in the public school system. I really wanted to understand how teachers were trained and what the research provided about the challenges of the public education system. Once I gained the information and the insights that I needed, I was then equipped to be able to successfully support my children in their educational progress. If you're looking to find out more about current information and issues in education that could affect you or your children, then you're in the right place. Thanks for tuning in today. I know that staying informed about K-12 education trends and topics is important to you, so keep listening. On today's episode, I'll be discussing the utilization and implications of project-based learning. Project-based learning has been primarily used in language courses, but it can also be used in courses such as history and science. Project-based learning is an approach that, in one form or another, has been around for over a century. So why the renewed focus on this now? I'll explore the applications of project-based learning across the K-12 public education system and its effects on learning on this episode. Hey, I want to give a shout out to Brian for letting me know that he really enjoys the information and the content of my show. He said he looks forward to listening to each episode. Thanks, Brian, for the feedback. Your comments really encourage me. I appreciate you consistently tuning in to the show. If you'd like to leave me a text message or a voice message about how you're liking my show, simply go to my podcast page on podinbox.com/K-12 Education Untangled. Again, it's just like it sounds. podinbox.com/K-12 Education Untangled. Check it out. Now, let's get started. The project-based learning strategy is basically an inquiry-based approach in which the student is the researcher who acquires experience while the teacher is the supervisor or facilitator and the instructor. The learning content is provided by questions and problems in real-world practices that help to play a role in meaningful learning experiences. This allows students to build knowledge independently and to make them active in the learning process, not only in the classroom, but also outside of the classroom while searching for answers to given problems. Project-based learning provides students with the ability to think better. The project-based learning model implication can be used to enhance 21st century learners through the 6 steps of the project-based learning process. These steps encompass learning activities to motivate students to learn and exchange their knowledge with one another, giving them opportunities to think, analyze, and provide feedback about what they've experienced. Students need to be able to solve problems with different scenarios using various means of analysis. Critical thinking plays a very important role in promoting education for digital learners. In order for education to support learning and challenges in the 21st century, students must be encouraged to seek knowledge by themselves and take action in order to develop skills as well as have a positive attitude toward lifelong learning. Project-based learning is a learning management process that encourages learners to take actions and have engagement in every step of learning, ranging from exploration, learning plan, learning design, creation and application of knowledge, and evaluation. The instructor simply acts as a learning manager or a facilitator or advisor who's responsible for assisting learners to complete their projects. Gamification is used in project-based learning in some instances. Gamification is a style of learning that uses game mechanisms to stimulate and motivate learning through a digital platform. The knowledge in the game is conveyed in the form of a game simulation, which encourages learners to have more engagement in learning with amusement, low pressure, and more efficiency in memorizing the content. A 2023 study examined whether gamification could be applied to project-based learning models. The project-based learning model using gamification to enhance 21st century skills consists of four main elements. 1, the input factor, consisting of learners, instructors, and learning technology. 2, the learning process, which encourages learners to take actions and have engagement in every step of the learning process. 3, output, or the creative thinking skills. And 4, feedback, the measurement of the results of creative thinking skills. The results of the study found that project-based learning using gamification is highly suitable and can enhance 21st century learners with a high level of learning. Project-based learning connects students' experience with school life and stimulating serious thinking as students gain new knowledge. The goal is to improve a student's critical thinking skills. There's no doubt that education in the 21st century is experiencing real change in the educational system and needs to be able to meet the changing needs and expectations of the current student population. This requires educators to focus their efforts on updating educational curricula using their most effective teaching strategies to make science and technology more useful for students' lives. The competencies that should be mastered by students include critical thinking skills, the ability to communicate effectively, creativity, and problem solving through negotiation and cooperation. Students should also be able to refine their learning skills in order to overcome global challenges. And this is where project-based learning is used to help students enrich knowledge and develop various mental skills. Project-based learning changes the routine of receive the information from the teacher, take notes, complete homework assignments, and take tests, and transforms this process with active and varied cognitive patterns, increasing motivation, curiosity, acquisitiveness, attitudes, and self-reliance. With project-based learning, students are expected to construct and interpret their knowledge rather than just memorize it. This learning process is one in which students are exposed to situations regarding real-life issues and practices. The learning process includes a series of complex tasks that occupy the student's mind by working on projects. In this way, open-ended problem-solving, decision-making, investigative activities are used to achieve the desired goals, as well as evaluate student performance and progress. As students take place and take part in the learning process, they develop a deeper understanding of the content and the required skills that are needed in schools, universities, work, and life in general. This is an intellectually disciplined process that consists of conceptualizing and applying information resulting from observation, experience, reasoning, inference, or communication. Students who can think critically have important basic skills that they can use to investigate problems, produce and test relevant ideas, theories, and hypotheses. They're able to make logical decisions, considering the evidence and arguments for solving problems without bias. Technology enhances the project-based learning experience by providing opportunities for students to collaborate and communicate, thus better preparing them for the digital age. Project-based learning has shifted the traditional classroom, which had been teacher-centered, where students were passive learners and lecturing is the common mode of instruction, to student-centered classrooms, where students are active learners and instruction can take many different forms. The premise behind project-based learning can meet the needs of preparing students for college and their future careers. Utilizing technology within project-based learning approach is one of the best ways to help students address real-world problems and to prepare them for life after college. A key point is not so much that technology is used, but how technology is used. In a project-based learning environment, technology is an important component because it gives students direct access to information sources and allows them to easily collaborate. For example, technology tools that enhance collaboration include Google Docs and video conferencing tools like Zoom. Video conferencing can incorporate critical thinking skills, collaboration skills, communication skills, and creativity. These are known as the 4 C's of 21st century skills. There can be challenges in implementing project-based learning methods. For one, the time spent on the implementation of project-based learning cycles is usually too long to deliver all the learning content of a designed lesson on time. Another issue is that the project-based learning model can also increase teachers' workloads and affect the learning effectiveness. Some researchers have proposed using a micro-project-based learning approach as an alternative. This combines project learning and a mini course. Micro-project-based learning is efficient, flexible, and practical, yet it retains the advantages of project-based learning and could get students engaged in authentic problems, allowing them to develop skills using collaboration, communication, and problem solving. Due to the characteristic of being micro, a micro-project-based learning cycle can typically be completed within 1 or 2 class periods. There's limited research on this topic thus far, but depending on the school environment, this might be a viable option while still maintaining the core features of project-based learning. An important aspect of project-based learning is starting out with a valid question, one that may or may not be framed well. It's up to the teacher to relinquish tight control over students in order for the students to better frame the question, which may lead to a project scope that's broader than the original question. This process is called problem framing, and it can be challenging for students who aren't used to this type of activity. There are 4 primary approaches to support the development of problem framing, and these include providing students with examples of open-ended problems, encouraging students to restate the problem while considering multiple perspectives, helping students connect personally with the problem, and assisting students to pose their own questions about the problem. By allowing students to frame problems in their own words, students would subsequently gather information, generate ideas, and evaluate those ideas in a purposeful manner. This engaged student then is taking ownership of as well as responsibility for framing the problem and ultimately ownership of the project. Now, there may be some of you who are wondering what's the difference between problem-based learning and project-based learning. So here's the main distinction. In problem-based learning, Students learn essential content while solving a highly complex and ill-defined problem, but the content they learn depends on how they conceptualize the problem and develop potential solutions. Project-based learning, on the other hand, tends to emphasize product more than process, and teachers tend to emphasize predetermined content while also giving students space and time to creatively apply that content to a complete and relevant as well as authentic project. All students, regardless of socioeconomic or linguistic status or special needs learning, showed benefit of project-based learning. Project-based learning can also have positive effects on students' social, emotional, and civic development. Schools can deepen and increase student learning when the entire school community develops, owns, and embraces a common framework and language like project-based learning to discuss and understand teaching and learning. It's well known that there's a lack of equity in the public education system, especially in the area of advanced coursework in high school. In other words, AP courses across student subgroups, schools, and districts. The goal is to improve equity in AP courses in terms of student participation and outcomes. Project-based learning can provide sufficient preparation for the end-of-year AP exams. Educators have noted that students can acquire the same knowledge and skills through project-based learning as they might through the traditional approach of lecturing, which is typically used in AP courses. Project-based learning applies to the youngest children in the K-12 public education system. Young children, meaning 5 to 6-year-olds, learn based on their natural curiosity about the world they live in or are exposed to. Children learn to develop intelligence and attitudes when interacting and collaborating with others like teachers, adults, and friends. Learning through participation helps children practice things on their own according to their interests, aptitude, and their potential for learning. Project-based learning can motivate and inspire children to have fun while continuing to search for knowledge about natural phenomena. Learning through play is critical for this age group. Project-based learning no longer applies to just STEM courses. Social study courses present a fertile ground for project-based learning, even in primary grades such as second grade. In one study, second graders had to create brochures that would be included in a welcome package for new and potential residents of their community. These brochures highlighted that their community was a great place to live and highlighted natural community attractions such as lakes, rivers, and athletic centers. The brochures also involved the second graders using persuasive writing, geography, and other important literacy concepts and skills in order to produce the final product. Several studies have shown that literacy develops more quickly and students gain more literacy motivation in context when students read and write for purposes beyond school. Read and write material that they see as relevant to their lives. Read and write about subjects of interest to them. Write for an audience beyond the teacher. And have the opportunity to collaborate. These common characteristics are exactly what project-based learning is all about. Other projects taken on by students in the second grade through fifth grade include a public park improvement project and a how to make money book. Project-based learning units for social studies and literacy usually contain the following steps. 1. Identify needs or opportunities in schools, local communities, region, state, nation, or the world. 2. Determine the standards to be addressed on the project. 3. Consider real-life skills beyond standards, such as persuasive writing, flexible thinking, and collaborating. Hone in on an authentic purpose and audience using personal connections as applicable. And 5, the goal of the project is always front and center, and the project is integrated throughout the unit. The key ingredient for initiating a project-based learning unit is to start out by asking a meaningful question. It's also important that the students working in each team sign a group contract that has the basic rules and expectations for the group. Students should be encouraged to solve any problems or issues that arise on their own. Finally, as with real-world projects, deadlines should be set and kept for deliverables of the project. In addition, again, like real-world projects, a review or post-mortem should be conducted at the end of the project so that students can reflect on what went well and what could have been improved. Another interesting project that was undertaken by a group of second graders was exploring money through project-based learning. Interestingly, in the Common Core state standards, concepts related to money are generally absent in kindergarten and first grade. However, in second grade, students are expected to solve word problems involving dollar bills, quarters, dimes, nickels, and pennies using the dollar and cent symbols appropriately. Enter the use of project-based learning to improve student knowledge. Researchers have indicated that when young children engage in projects in which they conduct investigations of significant objects and events around them, for which they have developed their research questions, their intellectual capacities are likely to be stimulated and eagerly employed. In this project, the second graders learn the date ranges of some of the coins, the values of the coins, the states represented by the coins, and how to add the coins to make $1. This is a practical application of project-based learning in everyday life, one that developed competence as well as competence. Here are the action steps that you can take regarding this topic. The main action step that you can take regarding project-based learning is just to be aware of whether this approach is being utilized in your children's classes. Research has shown that when project-based learning is implemented in the classroom, children develop and master the skills necessary for being successful in the 21st century workplace. Knowing the advantages of this approach for all children helps you to be aware of the increased learning opportunities for your child as they move from one grade to the next within the school system. Here are this episode's takeaways. Project-based learning is a learning management process that encourages learners to take actions and have engagement in every step of learning, ranging from exploration, learning plan, learning design, creation and application of knowledge, and evaluation. The instructor simply acts as a learning manager or a facilitator and advisor who's responsible for assisting learners to complete their projects. The project-based learning model implication can be used to enhance 21st century learners. In order for education to support learning and challenges in the 21st century, students must be encouraged to seek knowledge by themselves and take action in order to develop skills, as well as have a positive attitude toward lifelong learning. All students, regardless of socioeconomic status or linguistic status or special needs learning, show benefits of project-based learning. Project-based learning can also have positive effects on the students' social, emotional, and civic development. Schools can deepen and increase student learning when the entire school community develops, owns, and embraces a common framework and language like project-based learning. Technology enhances the project-based learning experience by providing opportunities for students to collaborate and communicate, thus better preparing students for the digital age. Project-based learning has shifted the traditional classroom, which had been teacher-centered, basically where students are passive learners and lecturing is the common mode of instruction, to a student-centered classroom where students are active learners and instruction can take many different forms. Thanks for listening today. I hope you'll come back for more K-12 educational discussions with even more exciting topics to untangle. And let me know how you're enjoying my show by leaving me a rating, a review, or a comment. Stay tuned. On the next episode, I'll be discussing my thoughts about the energy that we allow around us and the energy we bring. Until next time, aim to learn something new every day.